Now, if you've missed our sessions with Bishop Murray Galloway of Homefront Ministries, you'll want to go back and get the other 3 segments that we have had. You won't waste your time with this one, because he is giving us out of his history and life segments and gold nuggets that help us to go forward. And today, we're on one of my candy sticks. You know, preachers have candy sticks. And I've told many of you for many years, and if you've ever been to my home or offices or any place that I've pastored, I live in a museum. And it'll take you hours to go through because I've got a story about everything that I have. My father put that in me and told me that if you don't have a story about it, don't keep it. Mm-hmm. And so out of the tens of thousands of things that came through my life annually, there were things that meant lots to me, don't mean anything to anybody else, and will not be an asset probably when I'm passed to anybody else other than those that know the story of what I have. But listen to this. I mean, I just spent, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I just spent 15 days with 10 to 12 minute segments on different things that I have that are insignificant to others. But when I walk through my museum, it brings back all the memories of how God worked for me. Well, when I came to Pontotoc last time and went to your new office, and I walked into the Murray Museum, it was amazing that this is a mark of a true leader. So we're saying to you that are listening, as you listen to this, start asking God to bring to mind the things that you have in drawers, stored away, hidden in closets, and get them out and begin to look from this day forward how to memorialize the miracles in your life. Murray, tell us about the Murray Museum.
Well, I think it's just a pile of junk to anyone else, but it all means something to me. If you walk around my office, you will see an iron bed that is 4 generations old. And I walked with my grandpa through a blackberry thicket, chopped through it, and took that old rusty iron bed out. That iron bed sitting against the wall has a quilt on it that my great-grandmother Annie was piecing together when she died in the nursing home, and my grandmother had to finish it. There is a piece of bark, like out of a tree, with a chain hanging out of it that I walked with my grandpa. I was 4 or 5 years old, and he got to thinking about it, and we walked way back in the woods, and he found this piece of chain where he used to walk through a trail and had to go through a gate and hook the gate. He found this chain hanging out. I have the old camper that I received, the old Tonka truck and camper when I was 4 or 5 that I got for Christmas. It's rusty now. My little brother tore up the truck, but
But you remember that?
I remember. I remember the truck and the camper so well because even back then I would take a hoe and go through the dirt and make me a road, and I was the traveling evangelist when I played back then, going different places and setting up and preaching, and you walk through and you find the old flour and meal box that belonged to my great-grandmother Stonecker on my mother's side. It is there in my office. You have the old toy chest that my grandfather hammered together, I don't know, 50 years ago. It's broken and scarred, but I won't let anyone have it. I have all kinds of things in my office, but some of my favorite things is things that my preacher friends have given me over the years. I have a grandfather clock that the church in Carson, California, my first church, gave me for Christmas the first year I was pastoring there in 1988.
All the memories.
I have a huge Texaco oil sign on the wall that was gifted into our life of Bishop Holley and Dr. Galloway. I have things, cowboy memorials that were collected by my pastor, David Fleetwood, and then I have some sermons that I have asked for over the years. I get sentimental about them.
Wow.
I have sermons from my father, have sermons from David Fleetwood,
Yeah.
Russell McCullough, Bill Arden. Some have gone on to be with the Lord, and Bob Turpin had such tremendous impact on my life. My wife's pastor, and I thought that I was just a sentimental old fool keeping all these things until you saw them, because they're rusty, they're old.
And you had the grill from your first pickup you went to preach in.
Yes, my Uncle Judd. My Uncle Judd had a farm, and he had an old 70-something yellow Datsun pickup. And when I was 8 years old, we went to work on his farm. And by the way, I helped preach his funeral a few years ago, and he had a tractor accident and it killed him.
Wow.
And
Are you listening to this?
So Uncle Judd, we were out in the middle of a 100-acre field. I'll never forget it. He told me, I was the gopher, and it was like the second day I was working for him, and he said, go to the shop and get me a tool. And I started walking, and he said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to the shop. It was 2 miles to the shop. He said, get in the truck and go. I was 8 years old. And I said, I don't know how to drive. And he said, what are you going to hit out here? We're in the middle of a 100, and a love affair started that day with that old Datsun pickup. And so I spent my
wonderful.
childhood in that truck running around, and they paid me for it like $1 an hour. And a couple of years ago, my Aunt Teresa, I asked her about it, and she said, that old truck's still sitting down in the pasture. And my brother and I went down there and looked, and the grill off the front of the truck, plastic mind you, was lying in the back of that truck, unbroken. And she had told me that I could have whatever I found, and I took it home. And so I have a Datsun pickup grill hanging on the wall. But the great, great memories as I look around.
Wow, that's great.
Every day. Every day.
Well, the guy said, what are you going to hit out here in 100
Yeah.
That's go do your ministry. What are you going to hit out here full of devils? You're just going to knock a few devils over. Go do your work, you know. What can you hit out here? A few devils. It's great.
I got to tell that story at his funeral. Yeah,
That's great.
It was great.
You know, when you go into your office and you're feeling low and you look around at, like you say, you gaze at the sermons you memorialize on the wall, you gaze at the different, I mean, we don't have time to talk about everything in your office. It's the Murray Museum. But the fact is it speaks to you.
Yeah.
Your kids will respect it, but they won't be able to buy a new car or a new house with it.
No.
But that old Datsun pickup's worth $1 million to you. The story about the grandfather and the chain and the bark that he used to go unwrap around as he was walking to school and went back years later to get it out. These are tenacities. These are things that people held on to. Memories that they wanted to remember. I was there. I am now here. And I want to say to you that are listening to us and have been going through this journey with Bishop Murray Galloway for the past 4 sessions, I can tell you the road is not easy, but it's fantastic as an adventure. If you can lift up your head and you can look into the fields which are white unto harvest,
Yeah.
you'll always find where God did you good. But if you start looking backwards and you don't have something to see that memorializes God's greatness in your life, Satan will throw up every hurt, every pain, every broken relationship, every time you couldn't buy coffee, every time you were broke down in an old vehicle. How many times have we been broke on the
knows?
How many times on the side of the road? I have a toolbox, a yellow toolbox that goes and been with me everywhere. Although I have thousands of tools, that yellow toolbox is there. Do I have vehicles that even know how to use any of them? No. But I'm not going to get rid of my toolbox because I might need it.
Right.
But the strength is that it has memories in there. And God uses the power of remembrance. And I just want to close these segments. And Murray, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but we'll just talk preacher to preacher here for a minute, because, you know, Jesus said about communion. And we get all broke up when we do communion. And then we get all happy because we're supposed to rejoice after the communion. But he said, this do in remembrance of me. Could you understand that that might be a symbol of what we're supposed to do? That as our lives are broken and things resurrect in our life and things go down and come back up, that he wanted us to have times of communion with those things that were in our past as well, that brought strength to us.
Right.
Because every time I take communion, every time I go to the table of the Lord, I am strengthened by what he did for me. Then when I go back and take communion in my museum of stuff, I mean, nobody will probably ever pay $1 to come to the Holley Museum. We call it Hollywood. You know, they're probably never going to pay $1 to go to the Murray Museum. But it is countless blessings to me as I bring to my mind remembrance of I was broken.
Right.
He resurrected me.
It speaks to the faithfulness of God.
Yes.
When you look around, it brings God got me through that. God got me through that. God got my grandparents through that time. God got my friends through that time. He's brought me from that kid in the soybean field to here. And that speaks to the faithfulness of God. If he did it once, he'll do it again.
He'll do it again. Just speak that word right now over these as we close out. And let's give God glory for all of these that are listening and will listen over the years to come. God's with you. Listen to this encouraging word.
I want to tell you that God will be with you no matter what. When you don't think he's there, he's still there. And at the times that I thought I was being done wrong, and sometimes when I was done wrong, he uses all of that, works all of that for our good. And I'm just old enough, not old, but just old enough to tell you that God is faithful. And as the old spiritual says, he's brought me a mighty long way. And I ain't no ways tired. I'm ready to go forward, because when I look around my memorial, all I see is the faithfulness of God through everything. And I speak that over you today also. The faithfulness of God is real. He'll get you through this. If you'll remember how good he is, he'll get you
then
through this.
Then memorialize it.
Right.
Make your museum. Make your Hall of Fame. God bless you. We'll see you next time.